Good afternoon, my learned friends. We are going to spend half an hour discussing the success and challenges of the EPAN, particularly the 3 last years, 3 years projects, which have been finalized about this time. I'm Torodd Strand, chair of the advisory board. Impressive name. My colleague Jose Ruano from Madrid, Werner Jan from Potsdam, and Paul Erik Mogensen from Odense, Denmark. Paris, Texas. We're going to say something about the specifics of the achievements of this program, and we are going to present some of the feedback you gave EPAN on your sheets here, and maybe we even can have some conversations about your impressions, good things, suggestions, so on. So will take us half an hour, maybe. It's going to be nice. Don't worry, you won't fall asleep. First question, if I was to explain this to my colleagues back home who know nothing about EPAN, what is it? What kind of organization is it? Why is it there? What is EPAN's unique competency? Well, it filled the void after Erasmus, that's easy to explain, and it does quality enhancement in PA teaching, the only organization that does that, really. And and its task is also, secondly, to Europeanize public administration teaching research activities on the whole. So that's what EPAN should do. Does it do it? Can it fulfill its mission? What sort of enterprise is this? Well, it's a network which is not a proper organization really, but there is a legal entity called EPAN, but the spirit is in the encounters, the meetings, the interactions, the projects. So it's not an organization in terms of building a place. It's a network, a spirit. The 5 areas. So you know those, and we'll go into our opinions about each of those. The first, you see, evaluating what is it? It's passing a verdict, yes, good, bad, pass, fail, but it also learning and reflection, and I think we emphasize learning and reflection rather than passing a verdict in our work here. And we cannot present to you exact data about the impact, quantified impact, although some of the members here would want us to do the proper research on impact. We recognize that the processes and some of the intangible side effects of these activities also are variable, and the processes themselves have some qualities, we hope. So let's look into each of these. East-West is measured, for example, by measuring attendance at conferences, the blue here, and membership. It has been a clear ambition of this organization to mobilize, to include the eastern part of Europe, and starting out initially with 26 in the West and adding 3 institutions in the last 3 years, we see that the numbers from Eastern Europe are entirely different. 19 institutions and 12 new institutions last the last 3 years, which speaks to the achievement of the East-West inclusion in the entire business here. The blue graph here is an indication of attendance at meetings like this. So 3 is the highest score. On average, attending 3 times, like Potsdam would get 3 here, but unfortunately they are hampered by others who are not showing up. So on the average in the West, it's 1.4, 1.2. North-South. Scandinavians are slimmer, as you see. The northern part, that's the population size, the width of the column here, and they are diligent members and attend also to a acceptable degree. Whereas in the south we have lots of members, 33 plus 3. That is France, Portugal, Spain, Greece, Italy, and did I miss out one? What? I don't hear. You know, the Southern Europe. I must tell you that the Norwegian Crown Prince was on a visit. No, he received the Portugal president, and he's in his formal speech, at the big dinner. He said, "Portugal is different from Norway. It's Portugal is facing the Mediterranean." Is it really? Yeah. The guy doesn't know his job. But these guys who are facing the Mediterranean mostly do not seem to show up as frequently as the others. So there's membership in South, but attendance, representation is much lower, with one glorious exception. Carlos, could you guess who? Spain! On top of every list, on participation, contribution, quality, whatever, beauty. Yeah. Great. Viva España. Very good. Whereas Portugal and Greece, come next year. Okay, so we can conclude that on the ambition to include every part of Europe, particularly the eastern part, success, formidable success. Congratulations, very good work. And I must say, on behalf of us from the western side, it has been so interesting, so stimulating to learn about the countries which we have been secluded for so long. So the East-West, that's fine. That's a pass with honors. One program which do not pass with honors, scarcely. We have not gained all the data about this, but the European programs, European MPA and so on, doesn't seem to have that measure of success yet. As Marilene told us, it's still, let's say, underway. And maybe the ambitions have been a bit high in the beginning, and I know that Teotonen is a bit disappointed as to what one has achieved there, but maybe the ambitions are a bit high. We recommend that you demonstrate examples of excellence there and maybe get more people into it, and also accept that use of parts of modules and databases around is a source for ideas and development. I'm sure it is, and we should go into that in greater details to see how it actually is emerging on the ground level. So European programs, will return to that at a later stage and look further into it. Summer schools. Professor Mauritsen.
There have been 2 events, one in Leiden in 2002 and one in Bratislava in 2003. Pretty good turnout. In Leiden there was 15 participants. In the summer school, and in Bratislava there was 27. I think looking at the programs, we find very fine and interesting programs. Looking at participation, we find certain sectors being overrepresented, or for that matter, certain sectors being underrepresented. I've taken the overrepresented here perspective. The East is clearly overrepresented, which is in one respect good. The other side of that coin is that the Western part is underrepresented, particularly maybe Northern Europe, and here especially I think Scandinavia. So there's something to work with there if we look at the participants. I think the PhDs are overrepresented. But that depends on what your target group is, and that is some of the things I think has to be considered, because if the target group is PhD students, then PhDs are of course not overrepresented. But if you look at the application to the European Union, you don't talk about PhDs, you talk about young teachers. And that is a somewhat different target group, because, and I think that also gives you some opportunities if you think about this in terms of target groups, because as you know, PhDs are almost by definition young teachers, but young teachers are not necessarily PhDs. Actually, there are, in my opinion, many more young teachers that are potential participants in the summer schools than there are PhDs that are potential participants. I'll get back to that on the next slide.
You get that?
Western professors are overrepresented. Eastern professors underrepresented. So also here there's something to do to work with. Please. 7 items of advice. Continue summer schools are great. It's a great idea. I know because my chairman was director of a summer school 78, I think, and I've known him ever since. I have known the 10, 15 Nordic colleagues that I met there for the first time. I've known them ever since, and the networking you can do, the network,
totally independent, of course. Yeah.
the networks you built through the participation in summer school are really something that you can take with you and use for the rest of your life. So continue. But then start to think a little bit about the target group. And also in that respect, think a little bit about the 2 goals that seem to be the goals of each of the 2 summer schools, probably also the third so far. There is a scientific goal or a methodological research aspect component of the summer school. And then there also is a teaching component. That is a lot to try to accomplish in only, as I saw when you look at last year's program, in only six effective working days. Therefore, I think if you try to think about this in terms of what is the target group, is it young teachers or is it PhDs? Do we want to accomplish both the research component and the teaching component, or do we only want to accomplish one of those? And maybe shift from year to year. So every second year you focus on the teaching component, and then you focus on the huge group of young teachers, PA teachers in Europe. And every second year maybe focus on the PhD and emphasize the research part, the research component of the summer school. So my advice would be focus on teaching methodology at least every second year, for instance in the form of case teaching and case writing. You can easily fill 6 effective working days with case teaching and case writing. Plan for 3 years. I understand you're already planning for the next year. Try to plan for 3 years so you know who will be hosting the summer school next year and next year and next year. Work with others, ECPR, maybe as a minimum try to get into the ECPR net website where they have their summer schools announced. Maybe also in the longer run, if you look at the last item, look for the funding. ECPR actually has funds. They support summer schools for 3 years with I think it's £4,000 per year, and that is a good sum of money to start with. EPAN is another possibility. I know you don't have any money, but support is non-monetary support may be important as well.
No, for example, rooms and facilities could be arranged there.
And then finally work.
Research groups.
Finally work on recruitment, the over-representation or under-representation problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose.
Okay, regarding to this group links with the profession, I'd like to say that this group was created in June 2002 and has developed several activities. I'd like to outline this one that you can see on the slide, the Europeanization of Public Administration Competences through Training. This is a Leonardo da Vinci program led by Mercedes Alda from the Rey Juan Carlos University of Spain. This project, as you probably know, was approved in several countries, concretely in Iceland, Lithuania, Estonia, Romania, Ireland and Spain. And the goal of the project was to provide the public management students with the opportunity of getting practical experience in Europe and improving their professional skills and employability opportunities. This has been an innovative experience and very successful one. It has now two editions. The edition was applied last year, 2003, and the edition who has just been approved, the edition of 2004. In this last edition, there are new participants. In fact, we have this year 12 institutions belonging to 8 countries, and it has been approved for Lithuania, Romania, Iceland, Poland and Spain. Again, we have the same problem perhaps that Professor Moritzen has referred to, that is the imbalance in this case with the under-representation of Western countries, as Mercedes Alda has said before. Anyway, this is an innovative and school project, as I see, and we would recommend at least to extend the initiative to more countries and concretely to Western countries. Perhaps it could be a good thing to develop further the relationship with professional organizations, but I think the evaluation of this project is absolutely positive and has had clear and tangible benefits for the institutions that have participated. Finally, I'd like to outline too the seminar Making Public Administration Theory Relevant that has taken place in Florence on last May. And this seminar, as you probably know too, has brought together a number of PA practitioners and scholars, junior scholars and practitioners to discuss the relevance of public administration theory on administrative praxis and vice versa. So I think these are the two projects of this last year, 2004, and we have these observations. We have to reckon that these are positive, both of them.
But is it so that very few apprentices
has been placed out.
Sorry?
Very few have been placed out. I mean, placement of students has gone so well.
Well, the exact number of students that participate, perhaps Mercedes Alda knows that this is next to, but it's about 12 students.
Depends on the institution. Some institutions move 9 students, and other institutions only move 2 students.
Okay.
So there should be something. From the 2003, they are going to move to now. So it should be something like 15 students, maybe. For the following one, it should be something like 20 students.
Anyway, the final number depends on the future involvement of more institutions.
I recall the project maybe it's in infancy 6 years ago when Carlos Condes started working on it, and now it's growing and maturing, and the real sign of maturity is maybe the number of placements you actually can do, and also what sort of contracts we can do with professional organizations, maybe also to help them getting rid of their money. Oh, sure.
It is there is a specific association for that, EAPA, which has done it since 1999. We are very pleased with the way EAPA and EPAN work together. We think that is a very promising way of doing it, and of course we heard also yesterday and today that in the Bologna process, or I think it is now, the official title is Sorbonne, Bologna, Prague, Berlin process. It is becoming even more important, and I think we are basically encouraging this cooperation going on, and I think there are 4 points about the way EAPA is doing it, which we think is very important. It is, equality, because accreditation is both a stimulus for quality improvement and an acknowledgement of quality. We think that peer group evaluation is very important. So you have a discipline-oriented accreditation to reduce this kind of excessively formal accreditation by private accreditation agencies. We think that mission-based accreditation is very important. That is, you can take into flexibility that you take programs with their own mission, different missions in programs, and of course self-evaluation is very, very important. And last but not least, of course, also EAPA Europeanization is very important. So we think of accreditation as a stimulus for common European standards, enhanced information, collaboration among programs, exchange of staff, and so on. So I think basically we think this is a very good initiative, and we're very happy that there's this work going on between EPAN and EAPA. And perhaps I should also add, there are 4 programs accredited now. There are 11 aligned, and I think one of the basic valuable outcomes, at least also as I have experienced, it is a mutual learning process. Both those organizations which are in the accreditation process learn a lot about themselves, because they have to do all the self-evaluation, and of course you learn by exchange views with your peers. But having been myself the chair of a visiting committee, I think I also really learned a lot from that. So I can only encourage the members here, which are not members of EAPA yet, to become members and to name professors as members of visiting committees, because it is really a very valuable learning experience if you have the chance to try to understand a different program. So,
okay, thank you.
I think there is we could also have tried successfully here, but since it was so difficult, we skipped it.
Okay.
It's a very nice effort, and it's wise of EPAN to associate with EAPA. Okay. Let's go to your responses to EPAN and this meeting. And you filled out a questionnaire with 3 items: positive,
experiences, benefits for your institution, and suggestions. So let's, in a spirit of goodwill, let's hear what you said in terms of good experiences. Werner will read some, which are possible to read.
Torodd was very strict that I shouldn't read more than 10. I said I didn't have the intention, and I said, well, you're German after all. So, I don't have the intention to read all of them. I think it's even less than 10, and I will just give you an impression of the general feeling, and I think it's also, there's a broad consensus. Meeting people from public administration and getting to know how things are going in other countries, the possibility to develop projects through a network is one thing, exchange of ideas, knowledge, the possibility to establish personal contacts. There's the very good intellectual and social climate is mentioned. The exchange of opinions among colleagues and the learning about the state of PA teaching in different countries. Again, for the doctorate program, doctoral students, the good contact of the doctoral students and the good atmosphere in the different working groups is mentioned. Better knowledge of PA research and educating programs is mentioned, and meeting interesting people, that's of course always nice. Meeting real partners, not only email contacts, is mentioned as an important aspect. And I think somebody summed it up very well. The friendly atmosphere, the exposure to different modes of thought and practice, the learning about each other, especially Eastern European countries, if you come from the West, and of course vice versa. The good personal ties which can be developed here, and the whole thing is inspirational and strengthens the identity of PA, and I think that's a very important point which has been made here. And the final one says bringing people together is always a good thing. Well, that's of course true, but I think there should be a little bit more to it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Werner. This is some of my list here. From your filled out questionnaire, outlining themes for discussion in groups, maybe less lecturing, more discussion in groups, coordinating with other networks, EAPA being maybe the most important one, pilot innovative initiatives in teaching and other fields, target resources for less prosperous schools, and more teaching methods and pedagogical innovations. So the floor is yours. Any suggestions you want to mention here? We have a list here, but anyone? Not right now. Okay, we'll work it out and publish it and set it up on the website. Okay, so we are about to close the evaluation session here with some suggestions and conclusions. But before that, we need to remind ourselves that networks ain't like other works, not like other organizations. It's a loose thing. It's based on commitment and willingness to partake, and there are particular leadership challenges of imaginators and connectors who are willing to do those things. And if not, the organization collapses. Personalized relationships are critical here, and we shouldn't always look for fulfilling overt goals, but be willing to live with changes and ambiguities and learn on the way. This is the nature of networks, and the spin-offs should be appreciated rather, or along with goal attainments, of course. Listed a few factors for success here, and on top I find, and we find, the commitment of Does it say ET or TT here? It should be TT and other entrepreneurs. And the TT, who is the TT? Is he around there? Yeah, sitting right there. Torodd. I think he's carrying a lot here and deserves TT. It deserves much prize, and we should find opportunities to praise him. But we should also recognize how dependent we are on these entrepreneurs, particularly Torodd. I should mention other names, but I fear I miss out some. But I see some of them around here. So, Theo, you're carrying a big load here. And if you die next week... But we're really producing something, and producing maybe mainly relationships, but they are very important in our line of business. And the EU funding is very generous. Even non-members get EU money. Thank you. And it's a success factor, but also a weakness of ours that we don't have more different sources of funding. So that's something to look into for the future. The overall impressions we convey here from the advisory board side is that we are impressed with the activities and the achievements. It's serious and successful. We decided on the spelling there, and particularly from the core actors and the working groups. The venues, the conferences like this is important for networking, and we have some advices about that. And we note again the successful inclusion of Eastern partners and some other successes. The accreditation progresses and it's very valuable and will be increasingly successful for the whole of Europe. We hope also Germany, when they change their ways about evaluation institutions. So it's a valuable learning process. So that's the general impression. We are impressed, as the Americans say. We like what we see. Yeah, we do. Congratulations. Very good. A minus. Yeah. Okay. Suggestions for the conferences, and you gave us some. We think the conferences maybe should be more interactive. Perhaps even more jokes, I don't know. A few splendid presentations with handouts, as you got there. Demonstration of excellent teaching performance innovations. And we should monitor differences and progress in Europe, which you actually do, so maybe that's not an original suggestion. One ambition is to create, expressed by Torodd, a stable platform cooperation between major actors. Has that been achieved? Not quite stable yet, and it takes some more work to establish that. But into its 7th year, I think EPAN is mature enough to go out and so to speak make contracts with external actors and secure a basis for interaction between major actors in the PI field in Europe. Look at EPAN from the bottom. That means from the...
Well, the idea is, I remember this book by Michael Lipsky, 25 years old book, called Street Level Bureaucracy. And the idea of that book was that public policy is not what is decided. It's not about the activity of elites. It is what is going on at the interface between street level bureaucrats and citizens. And I think if we in the long run should evaluate the impact of EPAN, we have to take the same perspective. EPAN has to affect what is going on in the classroom. So the question is, if you think about your own institutions, to what extent do my colleagues, my relevant colleagues in this respect, actually know about EPAN, and to what extent has their behavior actually been influenced by EPAN? I think that's a very sound question that each of the partner institutions and the members coming from the partner institutions should pose themselves. Because if the ordinary average PA teacher in Europe do not know about EPAN, then there's no way that EPAN can affect what is actually going on in the classroom. That's the perspective that I want to emphasize by this item.
Students, teachers, curriculum developers. Okay, we also suggest that for the future, this organization, as any organization, needs to prove its worth, building a brand and demonstrating successes in conferences and otherwise, showing what it really has gained in an active manner, which is unusual for academic organizations, but there's a market out there, and I think we need to do that. And we need commitment from individuals and institutions. EPAN is not an organization, it's a network, and it's depending on commitment from some burning souls, burning hearts. That's tough, but that's how it is. And we should recognize that and thank them. Often, every time. Thank you. And encourage others to stay within. And there is an obvious question of support, financial support, from other sources and EU. And we think, and Torodd thinks, there is possibilities for others to recognize the value of all the various projects and networks, and also contribute maybe financially to our work. But that's an uncertain future right there. But so far, so good.